Hello, I am finally back with another YouTube video, and today I will be drawing ghosts while I tell a few ghost stories of my own, in honor of spooky season. To start off with, I will be drawing some Crimson Peak. I haven't drawn realism in a really long time, so this was kind of an experience to go back to realism after like 5 years. We'll be on this journey together. So basically in college, my roommates and I pretty much had an ongoing joke that we had a fourth roommate that was in fact a ghost. It was a joke mostly, but also some of the things that happened, you know, I still can't explain them. So I don't know. You'll have to tell me what you think in the comments. How to explain some of these supernatural phenomena, because honestly, most of them like I can reason out, but a couple of them I cannot. I genuinely don't know. I don't know what caused them. So anytime anything weird would happen in our dorm, we'd be like, oh, it's Walter, our ghost. But to set the stage, I went to school in this littleish city, and it was pretty much known for being haunted. All of their tourist attractions were kind of pushing the haunted agenda. They had little ghost tours, you know, where you ride around in a hearse and like poke your head out the window and they tell you which buildings are haunted and why. And then there was a lot of old hospitals and true weird things that happened in the town, and then they kind of spun them into legends and worked them into the tourist agenda. And so that is the setting that this took place in. And basically the dorm of my freshman year, I was in this building that had definitely been like a motel in a past life, and they repurposed it into a dorm. So it was kind of old and it had definitely seen better days. And the room itself was about the size of a normal sized hotel room with 3 of us in there, 3 beds in there, 3 desks, and then in one corner there was a little bathroom, and then on the other side of that was the sink. But 3 girls, 3 beds in this little room, which was fine. I was a little concerned when I first got there because I was like, oh, this is 3 people living in a 2-person hotel room sized room, but it ended up being fine, to be honest. 3 of us, debatably 4 if the ghost was real. But anyways, so on one side, the front door side, the door would open straight out onto like a balcony, like a motel, and on the opposite side, it was about 4 levels up from the street, and it was a window, didn't open or anything, but there was like one of those air conditioning units underneath of the window like you'd see in a hotel. But one thing right off the bat that we noticed a lot is none of us were smokers. However, our dorm room would just periodically smell like cigarette smoke, so it was a little weird, and we're like, well, I guess it could be coming from the street and the air conditioner is just holding it in, because to be honest, a large percentage of the city just smelled like cigarette smoke and vapes. So it was not a fragrant city, and that's fair, but we were on the 4th floor, so it was a little odd how often it would smell like cigarette, and you couldn't smoke on the inside of the dorm rooms, so it had to be coming from the air conditioning side where the street was. So then we're joking around one day and we're like, well, maybe long ago, before this was a dorm room, an old man lived here, a heavy smoker, and he just wafts from the corner, and that's what we're smelling. So we would always joke around and we would smell the cigarette smoke and we'd be like, oh, there's Walter. But we would always smell it most concentratedly in this one corner. So if you're looking at the window with the air conditioner and you look to the right of it, we would always smell the cigarette smoke kind of wafting from that corner next to the air conditioner. So we're like, okay, whatever. That being said, that corner was the source of a couple of strange occurrences. So the second event, because the cigarette smoke thing wasn't really that weird, but this one was a little strange. My chair, it's the same chair that I use today for all of my drawings from IKEA. I love it, but it's just this round desk chair, and for whatever reason in this building, anytime I would sit on it, or it would be sitting with nobody on it, it would always spin to face that corner, the right corner next to the window. And so I was like, you know, maybe the floor is not even, it's an old building, I guess. So I propped up the front legs on my carpet, thinking that it would spin the other direction because now it was clearly at an angle. Nope, that was not the case. It continued to spin to the corner. It didn't matter how I had the legs propped up, it would always spin towards that corner. So then I was like, maybe the chair's weird. Maybe the chair just has a thing where it always goes to the one side. I don't know. Since moving out of that dorm room, my chair has never spun ever again in any of the places that I've lived. I've been in 3 other apartments and my house, and never again has it spun the way that it did in that room. So that was a little weird because, like I said, it would always spin towards that one corner, no matter whether it was propped up on the carpet or not. So that was a little bit weird, and it didn't matter if I was sitting in it or not, and it was very annoying because I'd always be trying to work and it would just like spin towards the corner. But you know, I was like, whatever. Still, maybe the building was like extremely tilted to one side. I don't know. Maybe the floor was extremely crooked. I don't know. Give them the benefit of a doubt and just accept that it was architecturally questionable. So anyways, things like this would happen periodically. Like I'd be in the bathroom and I'd hear people walking around in bare feet outside of the door, and then I would walk out and there would be no one in the room. So stuff like that would happen kind of all the time, and we're just like, well, the walls are thin, the floors are thin, we're just hearing the people above us, whatever. But still, it was kind of creepy after it happened for a while. It was just a little bit unsettling. But Halloween night rolled around and we were discussing ghost stories. I had one roommate that was convinced a poltergeist had been following her around, so we were, joking around and telling our ghost stories, when all of a sudden, the roommate that had a bed in the corner of the strange occurrences had a phone charger plugged into the wall, and it just started swinging back and forth. And I was like, hey, did your phone charger fall off of your bed? Like, was it propped up on the bed and it fell off maybe, and that's why it's swinging? And she was like, no, it's been laying on the floor this whole time, like plugged into the wall and the other end's on the floor. And I was like, well, it was swinging behind you, so are you sure it wasn't propped up on your bed? And she's like, no, my phone wasn't plugged in, it's been laying on the floor this whole time. So we're like, that's a little weird. And I'm not just saying a little wiggling, it was swinging back and forth. So I was like, maybe the people on the other side of the wall whacked the wall. I mean, these walls were so thin you could hear everything that the people on either side of you were saying. You could hear their whole conversation. It was very awkward. But the walls are thin for sound. Maybe they violently plugged something into the wall on the other side. I don't know. So I banged on the wall. Phone cord didn't budge. The people on the other side probably were not super happy about it, but whatever, it's fine. But like I said, it was that corner. The corner that smelled like cigarette smoke and that my chair would always turn and face. So that was a little weird. It's a little weird. We got over it and we're like, whatever. It's just Walter poking around as he does. It's fine. And we moved on. Fast forward a little bit. We would always keep it very cold in this room. We had access to the air conditioner ourselves. We didn't have to pay for electricity or anything, and we were paying an exorbitant amount of money for the dorm. So we were like, you know what? It's 100 degrees outside. We're gonna crank the air conditioning to 65 and just leave it at 65 all the time. And it was great because we would be like really hot outside because I had to walk sometimes 2 miles to class down and back. So like 4 miles, and it'd be really hot by the time I got back. So it was nice to come into a room that was extremely cold. Thinking back on it, like if I'm in a room now, 65 degrees, that's way too cold. But at that time, because it was so hot outside, it was fine and it was great. And we all liked it cold, and we all loved sleeping under like mountains of blankets. So it was an ideal situation to just leave it cold all the time. However, the air conditioner knob would go all the way down to 55. If you wanted to turn it as cold as it could get, it could go down to 55. And we all agreed like that's too cold. And so I was sitting in there one day and I looked at my roommate and I was like, are you cold? I can't feel my hands or my feet. Like, I'm genuinely cold. I think I'm gonna have to turn the air conditioning up or like off. And she looks at me, she's like, I am so cold too. So I looked at it and the knob was turned to 55. And I was like, did you change it to 55? And she was like, no. So then my other roommate came back and I was like, did you change the air conditioner to 55? And she was like, no. And I was like, interesting. So I switched it back to 65 and it was fine. Then a couple days later, we're all looking at each other and we're like, it is so cold in here. And what are the chances that it's at 55 again? So I walk over, mind you, the knob is in that same corner where all of the other weird funny business was going on. So I go and it's at 55 again. And I was like, that's strange, because the knob wasn't loose. I wiggled it. I was like, maybe it's sliding on its own. But it was not a loose knob. You had to like actually turn it for it to turn. It didn't just turn on its own. And it had never slid before. This was the first time that it had budged at all from 65. And we're like, this was really strange. So I can't remember if it happened a third time, but it was weird enough that it happened twice. And then it never happened again. It always stayed at 65. And it's not like it just slid a little bit. It slid like the entire way down. That's just strange. It's just strange. But anyhow, we're like, whatever, moving on, I guess. It's fine. But yeah, so it was odd. So now we fast forward a little bit. This time, we were all sitting on our beds. One bed was in that corner where the sketchy stuff happened on the right side of the window. My bed was on the left side of the window, long ways against the wall. And then the third bed was in between the right wall corner and the sink. So the one girl was sitting on her bed, my other roommate was sitting on her bed, and then I was sitting at my desk. It was like a 10-foot triangle of space in between us. And there was just a stool in the very center of the room that no one was sitting on. One of those like nasty studio stools that makes your back hurt if you actually sit on them, so no one was sitting on it. So we were basically all sitting there minding our own business, working on our homework. I had earbuds in, one of my other roommates had earbuds in, and my third roommate did not have earbuds in. And I heard somebody say something behind me. It sounded like a female voice, one of my roommates. So I turned around, I was like, what? And one of my roommates, the one that had earbuds in, looked kind of freaked out, but she looked at my other roommate and was like, didn't you call Emma's name? And my other roommate was like, no, what are you talking about? Nobody said anything. Somebody just moved their chair. And they were both sitting in their bed and I was sitting in a chair with rollers. So we all three looked at the chair in the middle of the room and I was like, that chair? And she was like, yeah. And that chair was 5 feet away from all of us, so clearly that didn't happen. So we kind of just looked at each other and we were like, I don't know, because none of us said anything. And I could believe that it was a chair. Like if somebody told me that it was a chair moving and it sounded like a person talking, I could believe it. Because in a quiet room, if you have earbuds on, it could sound like a voice, I guess. Theoretically, maybe it could have been the people above us, but we all heard it coming from the same area in our room. It sounded like it came from the center of the room. I heard it directly behind me, and they both heard it on either side of them. So it was odd that we all three heard it coming from the area where the chair was. So I don't know, maybe Walter was just sitting there and he decided to move the chair. I don't know. But either way, it was weird, and we kind of just decided to move on and not really acknowledge it. But one of my roommates was definitely kind of freaked out by that one. So for the final incident in this particular dorm room, I did not witness it. My other roommate told me about it after the fact. And this one, I really, really wish she had taken a photo, but she did not because it freaked her out too much. So we'll never know. We'll never know if it really happened or if it was a dream, or I don't know. But as I said before, my bed was on the left side of the window, and so right above me every night there would be street lights shining light basically right above my bed. And we had blinds covering them, and then outside of the window there was nothing covering it because, as I said before, we were on the 4th floor. There was a tree, but the tree didn't actually cast any shadows inside of the room because it was too low. So it was pretty much just a square of light above my bed with no shadows on it, which it wasn't bright. I slept with a night mask. It was fine. But for whatever reason, there was one particular night where my roommate just so happened to wake up at 4 a.m. And I guess when she turned over, as you do when you wake up, she happened to look above my bed into this square of light. But on this night, she said she saw a silhouette of a face, and she could kind of see like the contours of his face in like a slightly darkened area where his eyes and facial features would be. She said she saw him over top of my bed looking down at me, and she didn't take a photo, and she just was like, yeah, I freaked out, put the covers over my head and went to bed. And I was like, you know, I'd have taken a picture if it were me. So that one I did not witness. I had to take her word for it, but you know, if that one actually happened, that would be creepy. Honestly, I think I'm happy that she didn't take a photo because I can pretend that it didn't happen. But yeah, if there was really a silhouette over my face, I don't know. We'll never know. But the next night, for whatever reason, I woke up at 4 a.m. because I was like, when it happened, I was like, maybe the tree casts a weird shadow at 4 a.m. in the morning, or maybe there's like a weird something that happens that casts that shadow in the morning. But no, there was no shadow. It was the regular square of light. The tree did not cast a shadow. It was just the street lights shining this square of light above my bed. So it was not a regular 4 a.m. occurrence for there to be a face there. I genuinely don't know what caused it. If it was a real silhouette, I do not know what would have caused this. Maybe it was Walter looking down. I don't know. That was a weird one, and I was not super happy to hear about that in the morning. But yeah, I think I'm actually simultaneously sad that I don't have a photo and be happy. But the next year, we were in a newer dorm room, and it was not an old motel, thank goodness. It had been built in like the last 5 years from when we moved in, so I was excited to not have like a sketchy old motel room as a dorm room. Plus, the floors and the ceilings and the walls were not thin in this one. I don't think I ever heard anyone through the walls. So it was nicer in the way that it felt more private, because it didn't feel like anytime you talked about anything, anyone could hear your conversation, which was nice. However, the floor was cement, the walls were gray, the floor was gray, and the ceiling was fairly high and also gray. The windows were glued shut, so the whole thing kind of felt like a prison cell. I found this whole room just a little bit creepy. So we moved into this dorm room. There was only the 3 of us, so we thought it would be a great idea to watch The Haunting of Hill House. So it was me and my other 2 roommates that I'd had from the year before. So we had a TV in the living room and then a little couch, and so we would just sat and watch 2 episodes of The Haunting of Hill House. I don't get creeped out by a lot of stuff, but I think I was in the perfect mood to get creeped out, especially because, like I said before, I found this particular dorm kind of creepy anyway, because it just had like high gray ceilings and it just felt like it was sort of swallowing you up. So it was the peak atmosphere to watch this show. And especially like the way they do the panning shots in the show, they'll just pan across the entire mansion that they're fixing up, and then there will be like a figure unmoving in the background, but you notice it and you pick up on it and you're like, somebody's watching them, or there's something there. And so those like moments kind of creep me out. Everybody has those things at night that they think look like people standing there, and then it's just like a broom or something. But anyway, I was like, they really leaned into that element of horror. We had watched it and it was like 1 a.m. when we finished the 2 episodes that we were watching. When we finished it, I wasn't super creeped out or anything, but just to give you context, I had been watching Haunting of Hill House with my other 2 roommates. And so my 3rd roommate, she just hopped in the shower and she started getting ready for bed. So it was just me and the 2nd roommate. So basically there was the 2 bedrooms right next to each other. There was doorways that went into a tiny little hallway with the living room on one side and then the bathroom stuff on the other side, a sink and then a shower and a kitchen. I was standing in front of my doorway, which is the bedroom on the left side, side, and then my other roommate was standing in front of her doorway, which was the room on the right side. So we were just chatting. I don't remember what we were talking about. We were probably talking about the show, and I was like, all right, well, I'll see you tomorrow. And she's like, okay, good night. I started to walk towards my door to get ready for bed, and I heard her behind me, because we had our backs facing each other, and I hear her go, wait, that's exactly what it sounded like wait. And so I turned around, I was like, what? And she turned around and she was like, well, didn't you tell me to wait? And I was like, that wasn't me. And she's like, well, it wasn't me. And I was like, but somebody said it. And she's like, yeah, somebody, we both heard the same thing, and we both heard it from behind us. And we were only like 5 feet apart. The fact that we both heard it from behind us was weird. There was nothing in between us. And, we were looking around, we're like, maybe it came from a vent. So I looked at the ceiling, and there was one vent that was in front of me, and it was all the way on the ceiling. And at no point before or after this incident did I ever hear any voices or anything through that vent. If the voice came through the vent. This is the only time we ever heard anything from the vent. And like I said, I heard it from behind me, where the vent was at the ceiling in front of me. Honestly, I don't know. And still to this day, I genuinely don't know how to explain this one, because there was nothing in between us except for a little bit of hallway and about 5 feet of empty space. And the fact that we both heard the same word, we both turned around, and we both thought the other one had said it because it sounded like a female voice saying, wait. So we were kind of freaking out. Genuinely, I don't know how to explain it. Every other incident I could reason away somehow, but this one, I don't know. To this day, I don't know what caused it. I don't know. I do not know. And so after that, had to take a shower in the creepy shower room where it was just like 5 feet of empty space in front of the shower and then like the opaque curtain. So I was fully convinced something was gonna attack me, and that was one of the worst, most stressful showers I've ever taken, because I was so creeped out from hearing this voice. And it's one of those things where like I tell people the story and they're like, that's not creepy, and I'm like, you had to be there. I was genuinely freaking out, and I don't freak out about this kind of thing. I'm not a person that's like, oh, it's haunted. Like, I'm a very level-headed person. I will explain things. I'll look into them and be like, nah, it could be explained in this way. But I don't know how to explain this one. I don't know. Unless the trash can started speaking, I don't know. So yeah, my other roommate came out from her shower and she thought we were nuts. She's like, what are you talking about? You didn't hear a voice. And we're like, yeah, we did. We both heard a voice. So yeah, I don't think she believed us, but definitely heard it. So that, out of everything that happened, was the creepiest one to me, because it's the only one that I have no idea what caused it, and I have no idea how to explain it. If you have thoughts, let me know, because I don't know how to explain it. So the very last incident happened again at this dorm room, and I was sitting at my desk and my other roommate was sitting on her bed, and I believe it was fall time again, because I had my fall decorations out, and we were discussing all of the haunting incidents that we had experienced, and we were like, what a strange little collection of things. And she definitely was into the ghost stuff more than me, and she was kind of getting a little freaked out while we were discussing it. She's like, I don't know how to explain some of these things. And I was like, yeah. Again, the only one that really freaked me out was the hallway one with the voice. And she's like, yeah, but some of them were definitely freaky. I think that the face above, this is the roommate that saw the face above my head while I was sleeping, so that one freaked her out quite a bit. We were discussing these incidents, and all of a sudden I hear, like, it sounded like a bee buzzing in my ear, the sound of the wings vibrating against each other, and I was like, what is that? And then I see her go pale, and she just gets this really freaked out look on her face, and I was like, what's up? And so I turn around, and I had these little Dollar Tree fall theme bows tied to my closet wardrobe doors, and they were just swinging back and forth. And so I was like, that's odd. And she's like, they just started swinging. And I was like, on their own? And she's like, yep, they just started swinging. And so I went over and I had one on each handle. So I was like, maybe when I opened them and then shut it again, they got stuck, propped up against each other. And then just so happened to be, while we were talking about haunting incidents, they got unstuck and started spinning or whatever. I will tell you, I could not get them to get stuck again, nor did I ever after that point in time. I think I left them on there for the rest of the year, and I never once got them to be stuck like that again. And I couldn't get them to make the same buzzing sound that I heard. And it was loud. The buzzing sound that I heard was weirdly loud. So I don't know. I had them on there for another couple of months, I think, and I never got them to get stuck. At that dorm, that was really the last thing that happened. There'd be a lot of times, again, where I'd be in my room and I'd hear someone walking around outside of the room. That one I fully blamed on the weird, sometimes the sound bounced weird in that room, so it sounded like there was someone walking around in the other bedroom next to me, when in reality, I don't know, someone walking around outside or something. So yeah, but again, I would hear that pretty regularly, where it just sounded like somebody walking around and no one was walking around. But I think that's kind of normal for buildings. But yeah, these are my ghost stories. And if you have any thoughts, let me know. I want to know what you think about the one with the voice, because I don't know how to explain it. Let me know your thoughts. Both of the other apartments I lived in the city after that point, nothing weird happened in those, except for cockroaches. And let me tell you, I will take a ghost over a cockroach any day. Cockroaches freak me out more than anything else. Oh my heavens. Not a fan. Not a fan. But I'll tell you, in the first 2 rooms that had the paranormal activity, we never once saw a cockroach. So if any of you have ghost stories of your own, let me know. Tell me about your brushes with the paranormal, supernatural, the unexplainable. I'd like to hear them in the comments. And I also do have a Patreon. I have a longer version of the Crimson Peak sketch on there where I talk about it a little bit more, specifically about the actual sketch process. So head on over there if you're looking for like behind the scenes, work in progress, that kind of thing. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. May your Halloweens be spooky and your houses remain unhaunted. Bye!